Okay, bro. What we're gonna watch this video. This is gonna be
Imagine
super
discovering
weird. What happened to the Mustache Man's family after World War II? Okay, I think the Mustache Man's family is still out there because I got neighbors who um I got neighbors, they hate black people. They see a black person, they're like, get out of my yard. Um Yeah, I think my neighbor's a relative of the Mustache Man, if I'm being honest.
that Adolf Hitler was part of your family. For his descendants, this wasn't just history, it was their reality. How did they cope with this burden? What measures did they take to distance themselves from their infamous relative? In today's video, we uncover the hidden lives of Hitler's family members after World War II. From name changes to secret relocations, their stories reveal the complex aftermath of being connected to history's most notorious dictator. As World War II ended, the name Hitler became synonymous with evil. For most, it was a historical burden to remember and revile. But for Adolf Hitler's immediate family, it was a personal nightmare they couldn't escape. Trapped between blood ties and global condemnation, Hitler's relatives faced an impossible situation. Hitler's younger sister, Paula, was perhaps the closest living relative after the war. She had lived in obscurity during the Nazi regime, working as a secretary and concealing her family connection. After the war, Paula was detained by US intelligence officers. During the debriefing, one of the agents noted her physical resemblance to her brother. She revealed that the Soviets had seized her home in Austria, while the Americans had taken possession of her apartment in Vienna. Paula also mentioned that she was learning English at the time. Reflecting on her childhood, she described her relationship with her brother as a mix of frequent quarrels and deep
Y'all can't lie. He was a cute baby. And then the nigga had a bowl cut, that dirty ass bowl cut nigga.
perfection. Despite everything, Paula expressed disbelief that her brother could have been responsible for the Holocaust. Paula was released when it became clear she had no involvement in Nazi activities. Paula's post-war life was marked by desperate attempts to distance herself from her infamous brother. She changed her surname to Wolf, a childhood nickname of Adolf's, in an effort to hide her identity. Paula lived in seclusion near Berchtesgaden, in a small, sparsely furnished apartment. She survived on savings and occasional charity from former SS members and members of her brother's inner circle. In February 1959, she agreed to do an interview with Peter Morley, a documentary producer for British television. This conversation became the only filmed interview of her life. Angela Hitler, Adolf's older half-sister, was one of his closest confidants. She worked as his housekeeper at the Berghof in the 1920s, but later distanced herself, disapproving of his relationship with Eva Braun. Angela consistently spoke favorably about her brother, even after the war, asserting that neither she nor her brother had been aware of the Holocaust. After the war, Angela lived a quiet, reclusive life in Germany until her death in 1949. Unlike his sisters, Hitler's half-brother, Alois Jr., faced his challenges openly, attempting to rebuild his life in the public eye. After the war, he returned to Germany and tried to restart his restaurant business, emphasizing his distance from and disagreement with his infamous half-brother through his behavior rather than hiding. Alois Jr. gave occasional interviews, always stressing his separation from Adolf's actions. However, the Hitler name proved to be more of a curse than a draw for his business ventures. He faced constant suspicion and scrutiny, with every action and word analyzed for hints of Nazi sympathy. The contrasting approaches of Paula and Alois Jr. highlighted the impossible situation faced by Hitler's immediate family. Paula's retreat into seclusion and Alois's attempts at openness were two sides of the same coin, desperate attempts to escape an inescapable legacy. Neither siblings could fully reconcile their personal memories with the global reality of Adolf Hitler's monstrous actions. Paula died in 1960. Still living under her adopted name and in self-imposed exile. Alois Jr. passed away in 1956, having never fully integrated his family history with his desire for a normal life. While Paula and Alois Jr. chose different paths in dealing with their notorious family connection, another relative would take a dramatically different approach. William Patrick Hitler, Adolf's nephew, would embark on a journey that would lead him across the Atlantic and into a new identity. In 1944, a young sailor named William Patrick Hitler enlisted in the United States Navy. This seemingly ordinary event carried an extraordinary weight. William was the nephew of Adolf Hitler. Born in 1911 in Liverpool, England, William was the son of Adolf Hitler's half-brother, Alois Jr. As his uncle rose to power in Germany, William saw an opportunity. In 1933, he traveled to Germany, hoping to capitalize on his family connection. Initially finding some success working at the Opel car factory, William's relationship with his uncle soon soured. Frustrated with his lack of opportunities, William made a reckless move, threatening to expose Hitler's family secrets. This dangerous gamble backfired, forcing him to flee Germany for good. As tensions in Europe escalated, William's disillusionment with the Nazi regime grew, choosing to stay in the United States after a visit with his mother. This decision would have far-reaching consequences for the rest of his life. William's enlistment in the US Navy was facilitated by a special request from President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The nephew of Adolf Hitler was now preparing to fight against the very regime his uncle led. William's experiences in Germany had shown him the true nature of the Nazi regime. His decision to enlist in the US Navy was both a personal rejection of his uncle's ideology and a public declaration of his allegiance to the forces fighting against fascism. After the war, William faced the challenging task of building a life in the shadow of his family name. In 1947, he married Phyllis Jean-Jacques and started a family, changing their surname to Stuart Houston. They settled in Long Island, New York, where William maintained a low profile, rarely speaking publicly about his family.
So I do got a neighbor that's Hitler. That's a Hitler relative.
History. To his neighbors, he was just
Yo, they lived in Long Island? That's not too far from where I am.
A war veteran, a man with a past he refused to discuss. After the war, Adolf Hitler's relatives faced a unique challenge: how to live with a name synonymous with evil. Many chose to distance themselves from their infamous connection by changing their names, relocating, and avoiding public attention. Their stories reveal the complex interplay of identity, guilt, and the desire for a normal life. Some of Hitler's cousins and descendants opted for complete anonymity, retreating from public view to escape both external scrutiny and the internal struggle of reconciling their family history. For them, the name Hitler cast a long shadow, affecting everything from job opportunities to personal relationships, making a fresh start nearly impossible. The psychological impact of this burden was significant. Hitler's relatives often grappled with feelings of inherited guilt, shame, and fear of being judged for actions they did not commit. This trauma shaped their identities and life choices profoundly. Some, overwhelmed by the weight of their lineage, decided to end their family line, believing it was the only way to break free from Hitler's shadow. Peter Raubel and Heiner Hochegger, descendants of Hitler's cousins, exemplify the quiet lives many of these relatives chose to lead. Raubel worked as an engineer in Austria, while Hochegger also maintained a low profile. Their decisions reflect a deliberate choice to forge identities separate from their infamous ancestor. Despite efforts to distance themselves, Hitler's relatives faced significant challenges. The stigma attached to their surname created obstacles in employment and social relationships. Even those who changed their names lived with the constant fear of their true identity being discovered, often leading to a life of secrecy and isolation. However, their story also demonstrates remarkable resilience and the power of individual choices. Many actively sought to redefine their lives away from Hitler's shadow. They pursued education, built careers, and raised families, all while carrying the weight of their family history. As we consider these individuals' fates, it's clear that World War II's repercussions extended far beyond the immediate aftermath. The war's shadow stretched across generations, affecting lives in ways still being understood today. While most of Hitler's relatives chose anonymity, a few took a different approach. The Stuart Houston brothers, sons of Hitler's nephew William Patrick Hitler, responded to their legacy in a unique and surprising way. What happens when the weight of history becomes too much to bear? For Hitler's last living descendants, this question led to a drastic and final decision, one that would erase their family legacy forever. William Patrick Hitler, Adolf Hitler's nephew, had already taken the first step in severing ties to his infamous surname by adopting the surname Stuart Houston. He had 4 sons: Alexander, Louis, Howard, and Brian, known today as the Stuart Houston brothers. Growing up in post-war America, these brothers faced unique challenges. The shadow of their great-uncle Adolf Hitler loomed large, creating a psychological burden that shaped their lives. As adults, they made conscious choices.
Imagine going to school and being like, yo, my classmate is Hitler's whatever. I don't know how he's related. I forgot. But hey, my classmate is related to Hitler.
Choices to blend into American society, pursuing careers that allowed them to maintain anonymity. The Stuart Houston brothers have largely avoided media attention, granting only rare interviews. When they have spoken publicly, they've emphasized their commitment to living normal lives and distancing themselves from their great-uncle's legacy. However, their most significant decision goes beyond career choices or avoiding the public eye. It was a deliberate act, one that ensured their famous bloodline would never continue, sealing the fate of their family name forever. The brothers made a pact among themselves: they would not have children. This choice effectively brings an end to Adolf Hitler's bloodline, carrying immense symbolic weight.
Nigga got that dirty ass.
Brings an end to Adolf Hitler's
dirty ass weave, nigga. That 2000s grandma ass hairstyle, nigga.
Bloodline, carrying immense symbolic weight. Was this their way of rejecting guilt or just a personal choice? Did they see it as a way to escape their past? Or was it their way of quietly accepting the weight of their family name? Either way, their decision shows just how impossible it was to fully escape their history. The Stuart Houston brothers proved that history's weight doesn't just disappear, it lingers. Their choice was the ultimate rejection of Hitler's obsession with legacy. In the end, his bloodline ended, not by force, but by choice. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this video.
Hey, at least they didn't condone what he did, bro. And I'm glad about that, because I would have been scared.